So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon the time zone you are joining in. My name is Anand Prakash. I am one of the core team member of GI4QC Forum, which was informally came into existence 3 years ago and is in existence as a formal registered Section 8 company, GI4QC Forum. This forum started with a vision to rediscover and apply the elements of ancient knowledge systems to resolve the existing myths and mysteries of science and nature. To achieve this vision, we started with 4-point mission statement, which reads like this. The first point is conduct innovative, cutting edge experiments to ascertain the potential impact of the observer's conscious intent on the observed outcome, which is what is the title also, that we are having a objective of studying the consciousness in the light of quantum physics experiments which are happening across the globe. The second objective or second mission is to see how the experiments and the research which gets done by the forum is taken to the benefit of the society at large. So the second mission statement is read like develop spin-off technologies which enhance the happiness index of the individuals as well as the society and are also aligned with the UN sustainability goals. The third mission statement is that all research work and the findings should be made available to a larger population. So that reads like highlight and publish the credible evidence-based results of the research and the study projects. And last but not the least, make GI4QC Forum the most respected and valued networked association known for unhindered exchange of ideas. And this is where we always keep inviting different organizations and start getting various kind of understanding, signing off with those organizations and trying to work together. So in the same series, we have been doing these webinars now since January 2023. We were doing earlier twice in a month, but now the frequency has been reduced to once in a month. And today's speaker is very, very prominent management expert, currently part of the Management Institute at IIT Mumbai. Warm welcome to Dr. Ashish Pandey ji. A very, very brief introduction about Ashish Pandey ji. He is at Shailesh J Mehta School of Management, IIT Mumbai. Ashish has research interest broadly in three areas: mindfulness, yoga, and its relevance in the field of management, spirituality at workplace and business and society interface, and best practices in management and organization development. His work is inspired by values of collaboration, empowerment, self-awareness, creativity, and innovation. His approach is drawn and informed by complex adaptive system thinking, strategic organization development, positive psychology, techniques of yoga, and mindfulness based practices of self growth and evolution of collective consciousness. His dream project is to incorporate IKS practices in management, as he strongly believes that IKS has a vastly rich methodology to assess issues and situations and offer an approach that works. I know there is a more to talk about it, and as we progress during the session today, we will listen more about his achievements. But as the topic of the day, re-emergence of Bharatiya Management, I think today we'll try to understand more about this initiative, what is in this initiative, why this initiative was taken, and how we can participate, and through participation we can benefit ourselves and also we can contribute to this initiative. and also we'll talk as we move along. So, without taking any more time, I extend a warm welcome on behalf of GI4QC Forum, a warm welcome to Dr. Ashish Pandey. And over to you. If you want to first share something about you, and then we'll start the formal conversation. Thank you to you. Welcome once again. Over to you, Dr. Ashish.
Thanks very much, Anandji, for very generous introduction. That was more than required, so I don't have to say anything else. Um uh, I'm in a so this there is a serious concern about the management theory, the economic development, management practice, and business organizations. These are at a very special relationship. We want development, but of certain type. Business organizations are committed for certain type of development and achievement. And in that process, what is happening to the humanity, what is happening to the nature, that is a matter of concern. So, and there is a lot which Indian perspective can offer with. So that is the reason for the emergence of the Indian Management Initiative. It is about the practices, it is about the perspective, it is about the theories. So Indian perspective can provide practice, theories, and cases which can be very useful insight, which can give very useful insights about mainstream business management practices. So that is the basis, and based on a kind of a sound academic research. But I must share that I am in a very typical situation at the moment. I was hoping to reach to institute. I came out, but in Mumbai today it is raining very heavily. A lot of people are stuck. I came to an office here, and a lot of people are already they are stuck. With a lot of difficulty, I have got one cab, and once I hop on that, I will be able to continue the session. But I'll have to excuse myself and at least for 5 minutes so that I can hop on the cab and start. It is very heavy. It is raining very heavily, and
Sure, no issues. I think for this issue and situation, you will find some Bharatiya management technique to handle it. So
so
no
I've
issues,
started it,
no
and
issues.
I hope I'll be able to catch it quickly.
Sure. No issues. I think feel comfortable, and we will continue the conversation. Uh, so actually, maybe the first thing which was coming to my mind was something the title itself, because in the title we are saying re-emergence of Bharatiya management. Why not emergence of Bharatiya management? Maybe he will just hop onto, but we will discuss with them. But I think let us do. We can discuss among ourselves. This very topic of Bharatiya management, the need for it. How do we people see this? One question in my mind was that, which I am going to ask, is that why we are calling it re-emergence. So is it that in between something sort of went away and it is emerging again? The second thing which I would like to understand, that uh, why do we have to call it as a Bharatiya management? Why don't we call as a new management? Because the problem of the management which are global in nature, probably the Indian thought or the Indian concepts or the Indian frameworks actually can solve the problems of the world. And here, if I say my personal experience, yeah, somebody raised the hand. I'll come. Let me just share my thoughts. What was going to mind? See, in our earlier days of career, we were told that be logical, no relationship, just get the work done. Whereas in our basic management, I remember, we used to in our shops or in our offices, people will say, "Beta, ye kaam kar do." Yani the relationship was more important than actually commanding. But then we were told that keep the heart outside the factory, only mind should work. And now after 30 years, we are teaching that no, 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 relationship is important. You should have relationship in the workforce. So somewhere I'm a bit confused. There's something which you are actually doing. We were told not to do, and now we are being told that please do this. So I thought of asking Ashish ji that did he think through this whole cycle, and how do we fit into this re-emergence of Bharatiya management? But before he joins in, I think Gudakesh, yeah, you only up, yeah, you please raise you have raised your hand. So just say what question comes to your mind on this topic. Yeah,
No, actually, I was discussing the same thing this morning with Dr. Kundan Singh. He had called from San Francisco about the Bharatiya management. Firstly, Bharatiya management is universal
correct,
because we always started with universal principles that apply to all human beings.
correct,
And I don't think it stopped. I think because the industrial revolution came, and we had our own industrial revolution. There was a I was just discussing with Dr. Rajan Gupta just 2 days ago, and he brought up that okay, why we didn't reach the industrial scale, that kind of thing. No, we did, but the because we were on the DAKM, Dharmartha Kam Moksha. So because of that, there were natural regulators in the economy itself. Before we ask why we didn't produce at industrial scale, we have to ask, did we have a need to consume at an industrial scale? So, the way we were structured earlier, there was no consumption at industrial scale because everything, all consumption, everything was based on requirements of specific groups, and not all groups consume the same things in the same way. So
right,
based on requirement, the production, supply and demand, right? So that was the thing that was there. But some communities like the Marwari communities, they have a continuation. They've kept that management things going, but it has become confined to that. But anyway, in the beginning, not everybody was in business. Now everybody is getting into the business. All my engineering classmates eventually did MBA, and everybody knows the final stop is in management. Even if whether you start in engineering or in the production, finally everybody is going to be manager if you're going to be working. So management is something that everybody has to address. So even the while the Marwadis have kept it alive the Indian way, because we now came out of industrial revolution and we learned, like I studied my MBA in US. So naturally the whole thinking is Harvard Business Review from the Western perspective. And I can tell you from my experience that a lot of those constructs are breaking down. And so there's a quest for, is there something better? And this breaking down because mainly the dharma and moksha elements were totally missing. The sustainability elements were missing from that. So it was first thing we were taught in marketing strategy is demand is infinite. You can create demand. Don't ask whether there is demand for this or not. The need is you create the product and you can create the demand. So that was the kind of
good.
thing.
So I think we'll come back to that point. Interesting dimension. Anil sir has raised the point. You can come on video also if possible. Yeah. So we are just trying to capture the questions, not really getting into answers. So on the topic of the day, is there any question coming to your mind? You have to unmute yourself because technology is, yeah, very sensitive to muting and muting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the concept of management, what we talk about, and the concept of management, what I believe in, are totally different. Okay, let me say there is a management for everything. Management relationship between two people, management in the family, industrial management, the workforce management, the political management. Every aspect of management has got different approaches, which was very well dealt in Bhagavad Gita, that how to manage various conflicts. So question is, what do you want to management? What we have been taught in current scenario is managing the industry and business, nothing else. We are not being taught how to manage a relationship between two people, how to manage a relationship in a family, how to manage the relationship between two societies. So there are different aspects of management. So when you talk about management, industrial management, it is very simple.
Good.
Either you manage it robotically or you manage with the yes brother, yes son, we do it.
So good point. I think very good point that when we are talking of re-emergence of Bharatiya management, then we have to probably be little clear in terms of the scope. As you as you try to ask this question, that is it for industry workers, workforce management, or human relationship management, social management, family management, or self management. So
And
I think that's
there is a very different management which is called military management.
yeah. Where from you belong to? Yeah.
So
So
the management is totally different there. And
and
I will not say that that management is wrong
right.
or this management is right.
Yeah, nothing is wrong. Yeah. It's a question of you have to. Yeah,
Particular domain.
right. So I think Rajshekhar ji have also raised the hand, but before I request him to speak, let me welcome Professor Rajan Gupta from MDI. So he is also with us. So warm welcome to you, sir. And he is actually the guru of our guru. So actually, in the absence of Dr. Ashish Pandey, I thought I will welcome him on the uh, stage and probably.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you so much.
So with when the guru's guru is present, I think the absence of Rajesh Pandey ji should not be felt in the in the session.
No. I'm also a student of this complex area.
So I think before I request Rajan sir to comment, Rashekar ji, over to you since you raised the hand.
Yeah, just a quick comment. When we use the title as re-emergence, I guess what we are saying is that there is now a concerted effort to decolonize our minds. So it is not that Bharatiya management was submerged for it to re-emerge. It was always there, but it was not acknowledged to be so. So firstly, we are acknowledging that there is something called Bharatiya management, which is actually very universal, as has been mentioned by Vinay, and you have also mentioned the same as well as Anilji. So the universality can submerge its identity. So I guess when we say re-emergence of Bharatiya management, we are acknowledging its identity, and of course, it is the universality that will make its impact felt on a global basis. Therefore, decolonization, identity, and universality, these are the key words that I think we would request Ashish ji to, in fact, now that Professor Rajan is here, to have him, put his point of view and, broader wisdom across.
Yeah, I think very well. So I think you very well said that we need to be clear. I think you rightly said that you think so, but I think all of us have to think so that why did we choose the word re-emergence over emergence? So that I think once we discuss on it, it will be very clear to us. And second dimension is, as Anil sir mentioned, but the third aspect is Bharatiya management. Is it for managing Bharatiya, or it is a Bharatiya management to manage the world? That's another I'm just trying to tongue twisting the title
No, it's a good
that
point. It's a good point, actually.
yeah, so it's to manage the Bhartiyata, or it is to manage the Indians, or it is a Indian way of managing the world, like sarve bhavantu sukhna sarve santu niramaya. So that's our philosophy of looking at the world, because our lens will decide our reality, and our reality will decide our action. So if my reality itself is different, then my action is bound to be different. So first and foremost, I have to see what is the way I look at the reality,
Can I add
right?
one more question to what you said?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
now we see that there's a list of 20 CEOs of global companies that are Indians. So the question is, and some papers have been written on it. The question is, are they managing the American or other companies in the Bharatiya way, or did they have to adopt their management to the American way?
Correct. So I think good that this time so the problem became an opportunity for us. So as always you say finding opportunity in adversity. So because Pandeyji got into the rain and getting into a Uber and all that. So now let's welcome Rajan Gupta sir. So sir, these are the initial questions. That when we say the title, that
Right,
re-emergence of Bharatiya management. So what
right.
made us to look at this title, and how should we read this title, which will actually decide the scope of the work. And then of
Oh,
course we'll get into that why did we decided to have this initiative, and what we are doing and how we are doing and how we can participate in this. That's a longer conversation which will continue, but maybe on the titling part, if you can enlighten us, it will be great.
okay. Thank you, Anandji, and thanks to everybody who's present. I think I'm so glad to be here, and I was myself so keen to listen to Ashish because I feel he has gone far beyond me, and I am basking in his glory nowadays. But let me share a few thoughts on the way comments and questions raised, and especially questions which Anandji is raising. You know, I have been a student of management, though I first did my engineering, which is also engineering is also an applied discipline where you are trying to design systems to manage energy, and leverage energy resources and flow of energy, etc. So, the word manage, though of course it has its own etymology, I'm not going into that. Management is coterminous with human living, because as long as you have a problem of resources and deploying resources, you have a problem of managing, challenge of managing. So it has always existed. Maybe, people talk of 50,000 years in Africa when human beings started moving. But I think the managing, even a hunter gatherer had to manage. So in that sense, managing is a part of human living. Now the question comes that the second issue thing I have always felt that managing is a contextual process, because the resources exist in a context, and context is material, context is environment, and context is human beings. So the optimal management is how do you arrange all these, as classically they used to say, men, machine, and material. How do you organize it together to achieve your purpose? Now, of course, there is what has happened is, as I was telling Vinayji, that perhaps until 18th century, Indian society was doing very well on, apart from other things, on economic front. It was perhaps the largest economy in the world, 25% of GDP, which means there was economic activity. The GDP is all about economic activity. So we had our own ways of managing economic resources. And of course, we had our own ways, as someone said, managing our daily life, our family, our relationships. So, or to put it differently, every human group develops its own way of managing its own life, which includes managing resources and managing people. And actually, one of my favorites is Edgar Schein's definition of culture. He says that what is culture? Culture is the way a human collective solves two major categories of problems of external adaptation and internal cohesion. So, to me, management is akin to understanding our own culture, way of managing life. So, now, I don't want to take too much time. So, I'm saying every human group would create its own culture or way of managing. So, in that sense, until we force upon a universal framework, you can always discover significant differences from one human group to another, one company to another, one culture to another, one society to another. So that is my broader approach to looking at management. And for a long time, I've been interested in cross-cultural management. Because since 1980s, early 1980s, this theme became very important when Geert Hofstede's study came out that different cultures, different countries, for him, culture and country was coterminous, so I'm using it interchangeably. And he examined work values in some 40 countries initially and then 64 countries. And he found differences between countries, but also found clusters of countries which had similar work values. I went into studying this, and there were some other cross cultural management studies which tried to cluster countries based on similarities of work values and related variables. And very, very interesting, this could be very interesting to some of the people present, that different cross cultural, large global cross cultural studies created these clusters of countries which had similar work values and related variables. But three countries were not consistently falling in similar clusters across at least three studies which were most well known: Hofstede, Schwartz, and Engelhardt. So now three countries came out. They were one researcher put it in one cluster, another, a third. So, and these three countries, it won't be a surprise when you hear the names. Japan,
India.
India and China.
is Israel,
Oh, okay.
and India.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that gave me a confidence that there is something about our context and culture which is not being captured by any of these global studies and their variables. So I said there ought to be something special about India.
Hmm.
And I did a study of that. I did a detailed study because on the one hand, we were trying to adopt American methods. On the other hand, 80s onwards, everyone was trying to adopt Japanese methods. And I said we cannot create global, global levels of organizations if we either follow America or Japan. So I said we can create a world-class organizations only if we understand our own context and culture. So that is one dimension of saying that there could be some interesting aspects of the way we manage over the centuries or millennia. We have been managing our economic and relational aspects. So we need to understand that. That can be called Bharatiya management. The second perspective, which, as Vinayji was saying, I always believe that every culture, because we are all human beings, 99.9% I think of DNA is common across the globe. So we will have a lot of commonalities, but each culture has, based on its own context and creativity, created one way of managing. I say every culture in its own creativity has come up with some ideas of managing which might have some value for some other culture. So I am personally a believer that we must study the way of managing life and resources in every culture. Okay, I'm told Professor Pandey has joined, so I will close my comment here. So
Sir,
one
please
level,
complete. Sir, please complete it.
okay.
That if
So
you are
one
speaking
level
at
is
English.
I want every culture to mine its own wisdom to come up with how they have been managing across centuries or millennia. Because that is it is like just like diversity. We talk of diversity and we say diversity is a treasure for mankind. So this is cultural diversity of managing. So we must do that. The second is, which is of course a spiritual argument. I have felt for last 50 years that the Eastern philosophies and especially the Vedantic philosophy has something unique based on my general reading of philosophy, Western and Asian, that we have something special in our Vedic worldview, which might have some value for other cultures and other people. And so, when why call it re-emergence of Bharatiya management? So one is that we definitely every culture, we would have some of our ways of management and re-emergence because due to the centuries of colonization, there has been a disruption of our continued civilizational wisdom and practices. So we must try to re-examine our Bharatiya ways of managing things across the millennia because we might be able to uncover our unique practices which might be useful for us today and which might also be useful for many other people across the globe. So that's why the re-emergence, because I believe since we were doing so well till 18th century, we were doing things right in that sense. So we must discover those ways and try to study them, experiment with them, and then share it with the world. So that is where the re-emergence comes. So I'll stop here. I would
Yeah.
like to listen to Ashish.
Yeah. So I think you have answered the question very well. So it's really appreciated because why re-emergence? You have very beautifully said that there was a time when things were all right or things were at a much better stage and we have gone down from there.
Yes.
So that's the word of re-emergence. And secondly, I think that probably somewhere in the scoping, maybe when we listen to Dr. Ashish, he will talk about it in terms of scoping part. As you
Yeah.
put the context right, that when the cross cultural thing happens, you can't fit in, one set of framework into everybody. And very beautifully said that when we talk of automobile industry, we blindly start following Toyota. So we say everything which is happening in Japan should be put into our assembly line. But there are certain concepts which failed miserably. Whether JIT or whatever we tried to do, it did not probably succeed as it was successful in Japan. All right. So it cannot be we take up a framework from a country and try to fit into that. But the other problem also, which you rightly said, is that we are talking of global corporations where it is very difficult to say that whether culture there has to be Indian culture or an American culture or a Japanese culture because the organization is now a combination of all nationalities. So under such a heterogeneous combination of cultures coming in, where in lighter mode the culture becomes agriculture. So how do we manage this agriculture? So I think at this time let's welcome Dr. Anish again, sorry, Dr. Ashish Pandey again. So we converted the adversity into opportunity and made the problems more tough for you, Dr. Ashish Pandey. Uh, Earlier we were asking simple questions. Now we got complex questions for you. So if you can come on video, you can face the questions easily. Rajan sir has done a good batting for you. So initial scoring is good now.
मैंने तो जो भी सीखा है मैनेजमेंट रिसर्च में वो राजन सर से ही अधिकांश पार्ट राजन सर से ही सीखा है तो
हाँ पर
मतलब मेरे बोलने की अब कोई आवश्यकता भी नहीं है एक्चुअली, राजेंद्र सर हैं तो
नहीं, अब वो कह रहे हैं कि गुरु तो गुड़ रह गए, चेला शक्कर हो गया अभी।
बिल्कुल
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ
बिल्कुल।
भी नहीं। नहीं, ये कहावत बिल्कुल भी अप्लाई नहीं होती, ये हम सबको पता है। लेकिन वो ऐसा होता है ना कि जब बच्चे छोटे होते हैं तो नर्सरी में, स्कूल में, परिवार में बच्चों से बोला जाता है अच्छा डांस करके बताओ, अच्छा पोएम सुनाओ। और फिर उसमें बड़े ताली बजाते हैं कि हाँ देखो तुमने अच्छा डांस किया, ये सब। तो मेरी स्थिति राजेंद्र सर के सामने वैसी ही है। तो और इस बात का मुझे मतलब फक्र है। आई एम रियली
नहीं नहीं
प्राउड ऑफ
नहीं नहीं,
दैट।
so we assure that we will clap more, so that Rajan sir will feel happy that whether even if you dance not that well, we will clap, that you have danced well. That much we are assuring you. तो सर ऐसा है पांडे जी, डिस्कशन ये चल
जी,
रहा था एक तो आई थिंक कि व्हाई वी आर यूजिंग द वर्ड री एमरजेंस, एंड ही
या
हैज ब्यूटीफुली एक्सप्लेन्ड. देन द सेकंड क्वेश्चन वाज भारतीय मैनेजमेंट. सो इज इट टू मैनेज भारतीय, or it is a Bharatiya management for the universe, and how the concept which will be evolved in this particular concept will be useful for addressing the challenges in the management sphere across the globe, because now we are talking of global corporations, the issues are global, they are no longer local issues. So that is one area we would like, if you have any thoughts on that, that when you say Bharatiya management, what is the scope of this work?
that's true. So the scope of this work it starts from the perspective and the worldview, and then it goes to the level of practice. Between the perspective and practice come organization structure, leadership, rewards and recognition, strategy, everything. So perspective is a since I am in a moving car, better I should keep the video off. That will be
Okay,
less distracting.
okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Uh, so one thing is actually I will be sharing 2 3 things, and I hope that I'll be able to kind of show and
Sure,
highlight the connection.
sure.
Number one, like what is the confidence in saying that there is an Indian management or re-emergence of Indian management? As sir said, that there were certain things which were working fine. Means GDP-wise, this country was doing very well in terms of the knowledge system. It was doing fantastic. It was the thought leader of the world, and it has developed and known many things which other world didn't have any clue of. So there was something which is working. That is number one. Now, number two, how Japanese management or American management has emerged. If we look at how the Japanese practices and the Japanese management style was kind of has got so much of reputation and respect, and if there is something called American management, what is the meaning of that and why it was considered to be so influential and worth following? It is because they were able to create they were able to create really world-class organization. There might be a Mongolian style of management, or there might be a Cambodian style of management. We will not study those styles, even if they are distinct. If some great organizations and great institutions emerge from those countries and arise from those cultures. So the development of in the current times, the style of management or the approach of management will get respect only based on the world-class organization. So Japanese style, as we largely attribute it to its automobile industry, and the automobile industry first time in the 60s when General Motors was producing, I think 50 times more cars than the Toyota was producing. And at that time, Toyota thought about implementing just in time and zero inventory philosophy, and that worked. And to make it successful, they had to work down the line in the whole of value chain. And this whole value chain became agile and very, very efficient. And then other things came, and then the behavioral aspects and loyalty related aspects and belongingness and organizational connection, the way people connect with their own organizations, all that is started happening. If we, in the current times, we want that we have to look at can we discover, can we find Indian management uh, which is not a worthwhile pursuit in itself. In the management research, or for that matter, any research, suddenly in the management research and some other research, this may not be the big question. I can think about some of the research, but in the management research, when you look at the trained, or you establish some connection, or you demonstrate some association, or you demonstrate the impact of certain variable on some aspect of the collective life or the sample or a population, we still have to answer very important question, that is so what. हम मैनेजमेंट में हमने बता दिया इसका इम्पैक्ट इस पे होता है, उसका इम्पैक्ट उस पे होता है, इससे ये होता है, इससे वो होता है, तो पर आखिरी में एक सवाल जरूर होता है कि सो व्हाट, इज इट मेकिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मोर इफेक्टिव, इज इट मेकिंग सोसाइटी एंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एसोसिएशन मोर इफेक्टिव, मोर फंक्शनल, व्हाट इज so same question actually applies to the Indian management, re-emergence of Indian management. Even if the uh, why in re-emergence of Indian management important? In the answer of this question, uh, the answer to what is the Indian management also lies in the answer of this question: why we want re-emergence of Indian management.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So
Interesting.
why we want re-emergence?
Yeah.
We want emergence. We want re-emergence of Indian management because current management practices, what they have done what business organizations have done to this planet, is not all good. There is inequality, there are environmental challenges, there are challenges of the meaning and purpose, and people not feeling connected with the work. The number of suicide and those cases are already surpassed the number of the cases of the death happening due to accidents and the wars. So at the socio-cultural level, at the climate level, at socio-economic level, what we are seeing in the planet is not pleasant. It is not, as a human civilization, we can be proud of. So, in order to address some of these things, Indian philosophy has the answer, but that is only a perspective part. There are great perspective about what is the ideal of human life, perspective about what is the connection of the nature and nature and organization and business, what is the worthwhile pursuit of human life, what are the fundamental values which can govern individual life, organizational life, and can still make it an enjoyable endeavor. For these, there are certain answers given in our wisdom tradition, but that is only, say, very the beginning of the re-emergence of management. The rest of the re-emergence depend on, are we having organizations which have followed these values? Answer to this question and studying those organizations will result into more complete understanding of Indian management.
Good.
And why I am bothering about it, what keeps me and my team interested in this question and in this endeavor, in this search, because there are organizations, they are few in numbers, they are following some of those values. There are certain practices which are still prevailing. They may not be the mainstream practices, but they are practices which are which are present, and they are showing their impact in the form of more wholesomeness, in the form of more well-being, in the form of more harmonious life. So that keeps us kind of interested. But re-emergence When we will be able to say re-emergence? Only when we have very impact. So this is the second part. The first is perspective. Do we have a theory? Do we have a perspective? Do we have at least the conceptual or logical answers to some of the questions? That is number one. Number two, do we have certain organizations and certain practices? And number three, which is even bigger, and why we are engaged in, because we want to see that happening in our lifetime. Do we create world class organization following those values? These three steps are required for the real re-emergence of Indian management. Why we are engaged? Because I think it is possible.
Wonderful. So I think you have given a very elaborate reply to this question. And one thing I think, let me straight away say the kind of discussion, the way it is opening up, certainly today's time will not be enough. So we will have to do a follow-up session on this. So I think that's the immediate thought coming to my mind. A lot of open questions are coming up. It's just questions are coming up. So today we'll try to cover certain part of it, and then we will have a follow-up session. Now, my reflection on your answer is that you started with perspective, you started with practices, then you started with, how do we really make it happen? So I think perspective is very, very beautifully mentioned. And as Anil sir mentioned in the beginning, probably you heard him or not, let me re-mention it. And what Rajan Gupta said, that management is very generic. Now, what is the scope of management? Even managing self is management. Two people managing is management. Managing the whole society is management. Managing industry is a management. And then, as Anil sir also mentioned, that are we doing military management or a workforce management or a family management or society management? So, so first of all, we have to look at that when we look at Bharatiya management, our perspective is probably more comprehensive than the perspective which currently being looked at a international level. We don't have to look at whether it's a American management or it is a Japanese management, because that has over the period. See, today, if I have a success story of a Japanese organization, everybody rushes toward best practices from Japan. Tomorrow I have a successful story of a corporation from America. We all blindly start following the best practices of the American management without bothering, how much of that is applicable. And I think that has done more harm than good to the management as a discipline, because we have started blindly following either this way of working or that way of working. And as Rajan sir mentioned, that without appreciating the the uniqueness of the culture on which those management techniques has to be applied, we are just blindly applying those methods or those practices. So I think very important dimension is the perspective. If you are able to articulate the perspective, then practice will follow. The second observation which I would like to say about Ashish's comment, and then invite other members also, is why we are doing it. I think saying that we are re-emerging because 400 years ago or 500 years ago we were also supplying 23 or so 25% some statistics of GDP. Do we have those success stories which we can show to the people? That is one way, if we have. Alternatively, I think our re-emergence should be linked to the sustainability challenges, because there are so many sustainability challenges, as Dr. Ashish mentioned, that despite best of the management theories which have been produced by the Western world or other part of the world, and we have resulted into international corporations, but we all know the challenges we are facing, as mentioned by Dr. Ashish Pandey. So maybe this re-emergence of Bharatiya management should be seen from the perspective of addressing the global challenges in the management, which can be addressed through perspective change, through practice changes, and then, of course, through the speed of deployment. So these are few observations. I think because he was on a car, he has got disconnected. So let's invite comments on whatever Dr. Pandey has spoken so far. If any thoughts coming to the participants, let's make it more interactive. Yeah. And as I said, probably we'll do a follow-up session. Any comments on so far what Dr. Ashish talked? Yeah,
Yeah, so if I may speak,
sure.
before coming to what Ashish ji said, I think what Rajanji said, one thing that stuck in my mind is the connection between culture, and we're not talking about organizational culture, culture, ethnic culture, and the management practices. And you also mentioned earlier, whether Bharatiya management is about managing Bhartiyas or is it universal. So I think definitely, and the specific case study that Rajanji mentioned, where three countries stood apart. I think the way Bhartiyas would have approached would be universal, although to implement um, Bharatiya management philosophy, there would be necessity for that culture also to adopt and adapt in order to become, to make that possible. But on the other hand, the frameworks are definitely universal because they start with seeing a human as a human, not as an Indian or American or anything. They start with human being. But then they built the culture around that idea. And so that became the Bharatiya culture. Now, when you want to take this framework and apply there the culture would have to adapt a little bit, just like when Japanese techniques were adopted by Americans, they got a little bit Japanized. And when we adopt American management technique, we do get Americanized in many ways. So I think for Bharatiya management to travel, the groundwork has already been done in the last 50 to 70 years, because the American popular thinking has been Indianized to a great extent through things like yoga and the meditation and other things. So the kind of the groundwork is there. Now, time to take it abroad is what I want to say.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let me specifically invite Sanjay Sharma ji, who has joined us from Gautam Buddha University, if he has any comment, because he is doing a lot of work in his university. And then I will request some of our international participants today, how they are using, without mentioning it, some of the management, because they are Bharatiya. So there may be some management which is there within their DNA, and they might be inadvertently using that technique. So we have Parida sir joining in, we have Ajit Verma ji joining in, and we have Sinha ji joining in. Then I'll request them to comment, how they are using Bharatiya management and how do they see Bharatiya management can re-emerge. Yeah. So first, Sanjay Sharma ji, if you have anything to say.
Namaskar from my side to all of you. All
Namaskar.
interested persons are there.
Namaskar.
And most of the things has already been said, because one thing from all the speakers had said that the basic essence of Indian cultural ethos that is lying within our blood basically. And this ethos creates overall management system, whether we follow American or anyone, but our blood will give that concept. That will come automatically. If we are living in America, our way of working itself comes through the concepts or culture, whatever we have, that is within our blood. Okay, no doubt we had passed through a colonization period, and we have to decolonize that thing. That is sometimes, no doubt, hinders our way of Bharati management. But certainly, whatever we are doing, whatever we are thinking, no doubt we have to practice it more, you can say, holistically, our Indian ethos. Because it's not only GDP. Okay, GDP is one of the part. Okay, we know that it was sometime 33%. It was something different. At different time, it was different. But anyhow, the things behind that concepts, we have to understand, and we have to follow that path, the wholeness, because it is not one part. We will focus one part only. We have to focus wholly, and that is a part of this Indian culture. So I think
Your voice is, or am I the only one? Yeah. Hello. Are we able to listen to Sanjay ji?
No, I'm not able to
No,
hear
no, he
you.
got
I think
disconnected.
some signal issue. So let me
Yeah.
move on to Dr. Sinha. Dr. Sinha, the question is
Yeah, thank
how
you.
this context of Bharatiya management and how you are probably looking at it in your perspective. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I used to be at a managerial position for some time, quite some time ago, independent. Um, I tried to be very sympathetic to people who worked for me. I took their issues to upper management, and I got into myself into trouble very often. So this didn't really work. I should have been more diplomatic, which I didn't follow. It was my nature to support my people. Engineers who worked for me, they were my primary concern, and I didn't push them. Whereas I have heard from my friends in the US, I lived in the US for about 10 years, that many Indian managers, they're not very nice to their employees. They make them work very hard, especially if they are Indians, if the employees are Indians. I'm not very sure how far that's true, but I've
It is
heard from
very true.
highly qualified people that Indians that have done their MBA, become manager, they are not very nice to their Indian employees. They exploit them. They even make nasty comments about women employees in companies like Honeywell. Okay, and with whereas the women were more qualified, they had PhDs. So I'm not very sure where I'm heading, but I think the Indians that are planning to go abroad or become managers, they should learn this Indian management first, not to try to be too much like military, because many people, many of you mentioned that yes, we were colonized. We know that 80% of the managers during the British time were Indians, probably more, and they carried out all this exploitation of their own people, and that doesn't go away so easily. Even now, the IAS officers, etc., you find it very difficult to talk to them. I found one nice one. One. I met hundreds. And you see the situation of the police management, West Bengal, anywhere. So we can be very nice at this meeting and conference and whatever, talk very nicely. Ground reality to me seems quite different. Okay, I have to partially blame myself because I come from a family where just ruthlessly honest and upfront. We don't take other managers what do you call command. We don't take it. So my father was exactly like that. So it's in my blood. So anyway, we should probably rethink. Maybe I have to read up more like how this Chanakya Niti or Gita is applied in management, how we can make compromises when necessary. My personal experience has not been very pleasant. Okay, so that's it. I know we are running
No,
out of
but
time. I'll
no,
let
no, no,
others.
no. But I think it's a very important perspective with I think Dr. Pandey and Professor Rajan Gupta. I think the dimension of re-emergence of Bharatiya management should not be restricted only to having some theoretical conversations and publications. But how do we see that this Bharatiya management at least gets implemented in Bharat? I think and Bharatis, wherever they are. So I
Very
think
recently, this lady who died, and it's become a
yeah, yeah,
very big thing, right?
yeah.
Very big issue. But that's not the only issue. I have seen girls cry. I've seen they're exhausted when they come home, they cry, but they somehow survive. It's amazing how they survive. I couldn't have taken an Indian manager. I would have probably slapped him.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, but I think
sorry.
this is a good perspective to consider. And as
Yeah.
you rightly said, so Aditya Prida sir also wants to share some views, and he was nodding when you
Thank
were
you.
saying. So
Thank
some
you.
of the
Please go
points
ahead.
is already supported. So, but
Yeah.
let's hear
Thank
him
you.
out. And
Thank you.
if Ashish Pandeyji, if you have joined, probably you listen to these inputs which are coming from our friends who are practicing some of these practices across the globe. Yeah, yeah, Aditya ji.
Uh, Thank you, Anand Prakash ji. And Dr. Ranbir, I was hearing you. Your observations are very true. I mean, I came to Sweden 22 years back at the age of 52 and with my army experience. So I was quite matured enough and I have worked in the industry, in the army, and I've been a I've been teaching in management institutes in India. So when I came here, I also observed the same thing. First of all, of course, the Scandinavian countries are very nice. Here you have full freedom, nobody interferes, and if you perform, you are recognized. So for me, it was the real place I was looking for. But when I looked at the Indian seniors, they're the one, they will not say a single word to non-Indians, but they will try to exploit the Indian, subordinates. And I'll not go into detail. So it is a fact. Second is they will do manipulation with the Indians, but they are scared to do that to non-Indians. So even that thing is also there. But one good thing is there among us. At least in my case, I have felt like I was very poor in because I was very busy and trying to struggle doing my PhD, and then for becoming associate professor, second PhD, and becoming professor equivalent third PhD. So I was totally busy. So I couldn't give. I mean, not even now. Also, I've not yet fully uh, uh, captured the language. But even with that, my Indian professors, they used to say, Colonel, you don't speak Swedish, but how everybody likes you and how you can mix. So
I think it's your
carrying,
looks.
yeah, because carrying everyone with us as a team. No, that is not the thing because we treat others as part of the team. Of course, with my army background, that is very much there with me. So we used to carry everyone with us, and we used to talk to them and mix with them, and anybody, because human behavior all over the world is same. So they understand the sincerity, and so if they find that you are sincere and you are truthful and you are transparent, they appreciate. So that goes on. But unfortunately, quite a number of them, and especially I'm finding the younger generation, because we have about 100 PhD and postdoc students here. And I, being with the association and all, though I'm retired now, but I'm still involved with them and I'm watching their behavior pattern and all. They are entirely, they're not, they're only bothered about self, especially the present generation, which is about two generation beyond. So that problem is also there.
Good.
But as regards the managerial aspects are concerned, certainly we have a lot of plus point compared to, and that is one of the reason why Indian managers or Indian professionals are doing very good.
Very good.
So I'll stop here,
Sure.
and there are so many other issues, but I'll
No,
stop
no.
here.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. I think you have, Dr. Sinha and yourself have bring out a new perspective, which I'm sure Pandeyji will just see how we take into this consideration of this whole concept of re-emergence of Bharatiya management. Since we are crossing the time limit, respecting everybody's time, they have all commitments, and due to some technology and rain issue, Pandeyji, we could not listen to you. You may give your final comment, but definitely we'll have a follow-up session. There are many thoughts emerging, and for re-emergence of Bharatiya management. Uh,
Yeah, so I'll quickly share one thing which, and I fully acknowledge the experiences being shared by two gentlemen and Indians behaving in certain way. That is, I cannot disagree. That is their experience. They have observed that. So we have also seen various kind of evidences, contradictory evidences or evidences of the different types and different levels. So in the last chapter of the Indigenous Indian Management edited volume, with Professor Bhavuk and Professor Pawan Budhwar, we shared that there are three things which have to be worked upon and they constitute management in any context. Number one, cultural ideals. Number two, institutions. institutional hybridity, and number 3 is people behavior. Uh, when all three are aligned and harmonious, we get a very beautiful picture of a collective phenomena, whether it is Japanese management or Scandinavian management. And that will be true for the Indian management as well. There is a cultural ideal, institutional hybridity, and the people behavior, and the whole management governance field is in a way struggle to align the behavior with along certain ideals, and creating institutional and cultural ambience, institutional framework and cultural ambience to realize that uh, this kind of a ultimate harmonious thing. That is my last observation. That was our conclusion in the book, in the last chapter.
Good. So I think, as rightly said, that we have many dimension aspects to be discussed. So probably, Verma Sinhaji have raised the hand. So that will be the last comment. Yeah.
I just wanted to, maybe I missed that reference. Could you please repeat that reference again? The book?
Uh, that is our book, Indigenous Indian Management,
Thank you.
published by Springer,
Thank
Macmillan.
you. Thank you.
Maybe in the group, you can share the details.
Yeah.
So I think again, because of paucity of time, Pandeyji, the topic has to be taken up maybe in the subsequent session, because many more points have come. And before we conclude, let me take the last comment. And after that, I'll request Vinayji. We discussed that we'll close it with some mantra recitation. So Rajshekhar ji, I think, has left. So if you can help me with the mantra recitation, we'll close it with the mantra recitation. Our meetings will close with mantra recitation. Yeah. Any last comment before I invite Vinayji to do a mantra recitation?
Yeah, I can have the last comment.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's very important to understand the impact of colonization on the Indian mind, to understand all these things that came up. And we had to come out of the grips of that, so that the original Indian thinking shines through. So right now there's thousands of millions of people we call Indian, but they're only legally Indian, biologically Indian, but actually, in their minds they're not Indian. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, good. So may I request you to do a closing recitation of any mantra which you?
Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.